As Games Workshop prepare to release their most expansive, audacious, and ambitious campaign so far, the Psychic Awakening, let us look at the Craft World Eldar faction. I shall be prognosticating on what I would like to see. Please remember, this is not what I think will occur. I claim no insider knowledge, and this is merely what I feel could be introduced by Games Workshop to bring about their most dramatic and exceptional story so far. Alas, I do not think I will be able to get all that I wish to say in one video. Even conceding that this is not entirely a lore video, I will assume the existing adoration of the faction. I feel that I have to extend my apologies for the lack of brevity and concision in this matter, but the subject material is just too poetic for us to be hasty. The Eldar race has a long and complex spacefaring history, but I should cover all of this in other extensive lore videos. After tens of millions of years of utter dominance of the galaxy, the Eldar walked a path that led to their damnation, destruction, and their fall. In one apocalyptic event, their entire empire simply winked out of existence. But this is knowledge for another time. All you need know, gentle listener, is that the Eldar civilization faced a cataclysm universally known as the Fall of the Eldar. All now believe that they are a waning race, a dying people, a species staring into the abyss of extinction. To quote, "As a humanoid race, Eldar are physically similar to humans, although not entirely identical by any means. They possess longer and cleaner limbs, and fine aesthetic features with penetrating and slightly slanted, almond-shaped eyes. Their ears are also slightly pointed, but otherwise they could pass as human at first glance. The most obvious difference between humans and Eldar can only be seen when they move. For the movements of an Eldar radiate a subtle grace which is impossible for a human to emulate. This can be seen in even their slightest gestures, or the dexterity with which they manipulate small objects. The Eldar mind, ostensibly similar to the human, is far more inclined towards extremes. Because of this, Eldar are more intelligent, but also far more intense than humans. Although an Eldar and a human can both grieve or feel joy, the Eldar's experience is likely to be far more intense, and thus extreme. This natural inclination towards emotional extremes is both a blessing and a curse to the Eldar. On the positive side, it gives them an unparalleled appreciation of life and an unrivaled ability to express themselves through music and other creative endeavors. A melody or gesture made with grace and skill can elicit an intensity of pleasure which is unimaginable to a human, but this potential for joy is paralleled by an equal capacity to feel despair, ambition, and even hatred. Confronted by grief or other personal setbacks, an Eldar suffers mental torments which far exceed the boundaries of human anguish. The extreme nature of their temperament makes it very important that the Eldar maintain a measure of self-control at all times, for it is dangerously easy for them to become entranced by, and ultimately dependent upon, the experience that their culture offers them. They must learn to control the darker side of their natures, which is no less an essential portion of the Eldar psyche, and the source of the catastrophe that nearly caused their extinction. The Eldar are a naturally psychic race, and all Eldar possess the potential to become powerful psychers if they choose to pursue this path. The Eldar can use these innate abilities to shape matter, which lies at the foundation of their extraordinary command of technology. Though highly advanced and feared across the galaxy, the Eldar are still a dying race, a shadow of their former glory, and their race teeters on the brink of final annihilation. Thus we have reminded ourselves of whom we discuss. Let us now get to the fun part. My choice in third place for that which will be revealed in the Psychic Awakening is simple and rather predictable, but worthwhile, I hope. The byline on the Games Workshop site clarifies the first stage of the Psychic Awakening is called Rise of the Phoenix. So as our third place choice, let us discuss that which is most obvious the Phoenix Lords. I will attempt to be brief in my introduction, as I intend to do a video on them. Let us be reminded of the basics at least, before we go into my prognostication. To quote, "The Phoenix Lords are immortal after a fashion. When a Phoenix Lord is slain in battle, his place is taken by another Eldar who assumes his costume and identity. In this way, the Phoenix Lord is reborn into a fresh cycle of existence. His suit includes a spirit stone which contains a spirit and spirits of the Eldar who have become that Phoenix Lord. Yet, no matter how many different individuals as Phoenix Lord may have been, his mind is forever the same, driven by the dominant personality of the first and greatest warrior to wear the suit. Let us list them. Ahra. I will not discuss Ahra here. That will be for another time. So, skipping on, Asumen, the hand of Asuyan himself, first of the Phoenix Lords, founder of the Shrine of the Dire Avengers, and trainer of all of the subsequent Phoenix Lords. Baharoth, the Cry of the Wind, founder of the Swooping Hawks, most valiant, youngest, and most hopeful of the Phoenix Lords. Fugan, founder of the Fire Dragons, the Burning Lance, whose every battle leads to his ultimate fate in the Rana Dandra. Irilith, Phoenix Lord of the Shadow Spectres, who has since vanished, but who still has a figure extant from Forge World, I note. Jaina Zar, the Storm of Silence, first to be trained by Asuman, and the first of the Asuya. She is the founder of the Howling Banshees aspect. Calandras, the Shadow Hunter, Phoenix Lord of the Striking Scorpions, but not the originator of that shrine. Morgan Ra, the Harvester of Souls, founder of the Dark Reapers, most feared of all the Phoenix Lords, even by his own people, the Eldar. My first choice, amongst what I project as being the three revealed Phoenix Lords, is as follows. Said to be the Phoenix Lord of the Eagle pilots who fly the terrifying Nightwing fighters. Not the Nightshade Interceptor that is the usual choice for the Crimson Hunters. But are they the same? Amon Harakt, Phoenix Lord of the Eagle pilots. Did Amon Harakt begin with Nightwing fighters and then move to Nightshade Interceptors? Is Amon Harakt the true Phoenix Lord of the Crimson Hunters, and the Eagle pilots are just a Craft World specific name for this august aspect? Or is there another Phoenix, the Lord of the Crimson Hunters, who has simply been lost in the annals of time due to his long disappearance? Only Games Workshop can say for certain, but their recent penchant for flying models means that, in my mind, we should see either Amon Harakt or the lost Phoenix Lord of the Crimson Hunters, if not both, if both are not the same, revealed with much fanfare and a magnificent, sleek, and deadly-looking model. My second choice for a returned Phoenix Lord may elicit many a rebuttal, but I shall endeavour to make my case. I present to you my second choice, Lycosidae, the Wraith Spider. A contentious figure in the lore, and, potentially, a much maligned one. Lycosidae is said to have hailed from the Craft World Kaelor, a distant and lonely city amongst the stars that shuns contact with any, even their own kind. It is said that in the Arc of Destiny, it records of a period called the Craft War, a war between Kaelor and Samhan, and that the war was only won by Kaelor due to the timely intervention of the Wraith Spider. Some say that the Warp Spiders aspect developed from no Phoenix Lord, but they were birthed by warriors watching the spiders that haunt the Craft Worlds to repair them at need. I think this is extremely unlikely, and have a far more realistic view on the genesis of this aspect. I feel it is much more likely that Lycosidae is actually the Phoenix Lord of the Warp Spiders, but has been the victim of a whispering campaign millennia in the making. Samhan is now one of the most prolifically populated, powerful and aggressive of all of the Craft Worlds, now that Yandan has been laid low by the Great Devourer, and warlike Bialtan have been fractured by the advent of the Incarn. But Samhan have always been proud and truculent. Did they use a whispering campaign to expunge their loss, their dishonor, at the hands of Kaelor? Did the Wraith Spider get written out of history along with Kaelor to protect the fragile ego of the rough-and-ready warriors of the Samehan, and other craft worlds began by agreeing with them to reduce friction, then simply that the lie became the truth, and both Kaelor and Lycosidae were whispered out of the collective history of the Eldar? I think this much more likely. So my second choice of Phoenix Lord is Lycosidae, the Wraith Spider. His figure should be amazing, and his presence on the battlefields of the Grimdark something to bring more vigor to the aspect. I certainly hope so. My top pick for the returning Phoenix Lords, the one I think will be most exciting, most dramatic, and most enticing. I shall introduce him, for good or for ill. He was ever known to be the most independent, most flamboyant, and most reckless of all of the students of Azumen. He was said to have exiled himself in shame, as his recklessness and vainglorious actions led him to leave the side of his mentor, Azuman, in the moment of his direst need. Pun intended. The consequence of his action was twofold. He slew his intended target, but while doing so he was not present to support Azumen, who was killed for the first time in this encounter. The other Phoenix Lords were mad with grief, but also filled with contempt and hatred for this particular Phoenix Lord, so he placed his great spear in the vaults of Iandan and went into self-enforced exile, and has never been seen since. But this was thousands of years ago, and perhaps, just perhaps, he was falsely accused, and the recounting of the tale has also, like Lycosidae's, been warped with the march of the millennia. The Phoenix Lords were present at a time when the Eldar felt defeated and were staring into the dark chasm, with extinction fast approaching them out of the dark. I propose that at that time the Phoenix Lords were entirely fixated on survival and protection only. Logical, one might say, but not entirely wise. Why so, you may ask, gentle listener. Let me tell you. For the Eldar soul is a thing of fire and passion. Their empire lasted millions of years and produced splendor and wonders that, like humanity or any of the younger races, could not even dream. This grandeur was not gained by caution or control, but by the fire within the Eldar soul, the Eldar spirit. Never forget that at their core the Eldar may always flee from the truth, but they are a race that was built, nurtured, and trained for war. All else is a byproduct of the fire that was bequeathed to them for this purpose alone. So, did this Phoenix Lord err? Perhaps he did not. Perhaps he was actually the epitome of everything that made the Eldar great, and was simply incongruous with the feelings of his race and the Phoenix Lords of his time. Perhaps, just perhaps, he embodied the very facets that will eventually lead the Eldar into a new age, like a phoenix rising. And perhaps he can feel the kindling in the Eldar soul, and hearkens to it, and will return to his people to lead them in the ways of old, in the ways of war. Perhaps he will lead and show his people who they were once, and how they can become great again. I now introduce you, my top pick for the lost and returning Phoenix Lords. The Lord of one of the most powerful and popular aspects in this edition. I present to you, gentle listener, the Tempest of Starlight, wielder of the Celestial Lance, the Phoenix Lord of the Shining Spears, Drastanta. This concludes the first part of my prognostications for Craft World Eldar. I shall return for my second and then my first choice for the new units that will be revealed during the Psychic Awakening. I hope you will join me for this, at your convenience, of course, my friend, my gentle listener.